Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and I'd like to welcome you to the Blue Collar Wine Show. We're going to step out of blue collar range unless of course you have a really good paying job. Just kidding. These are affordable wines. They're all under $100, okay? We got Christmas coming up. Tomorrow, this is Christmas Eve. I'm glad you're watching if you are taking just a little bit of time out of your day to watch this program. We're going to taste Amarone from Italy. Amarone is a fantastic wine to enjoy with prime rib. It's very big and luscious. It's dry enough to go with the meat, and it's big enough to complement the spices and things that you have with that. Amarone is a very interesting wine. It's a blend. It's a blend of Corvina, Radanella, and Molinar grapes, and sometimes Negrara. So those are very unusual grapes. We're probably not used to hearing those words. Maybe we are. Anyway, historians believe that Amarone, which means Amaro, which means bitter, and Amarone means the big bitter one, was a mistake. They used to make Ricciotto, they still do, it's not as much as Amarone, Ricciotto della Valpolicella, which was a sweeter version of this blend. They would ferment it down but leave some residual sugar, so you got actually a sweeter red wine. So when they inadvertently made one drier, they dried it down to less grams of sugar, maybe to 0. They came out with what they called a drier style Amarone. So they named it Amarone, which means bitter one, because it's obviously drier than the Ricciotto process, where they leave a little residual sugar. Little wine 101, if you would. So we're going to taste 3 Amarones. Amarone, because it's a bigger style. Now this is interesting, the way they make it. They actually pick the grapes when they're a little riper. They're from Verona, Italy. They pick them a little riper. Then they put them on racks and dry them out for 2 to 5 months, depending on the producer. Why do they do that? Well, they want to get the water out of there. They want to concentrate the flavors. They actually get it down to raisin-like. Then they ferment and press it, giving a bigger style wine. Many of them roll in at 15-16% alcohol. My boss, Vern, loves Amarone. He just got back from Italy, went to Allegrini, Tomasi. I'm telling you, that's his favorite wine, and I can understand why. So let's get started. We're going to start with Allegrini, which is where Vern went. Amarone della Valpolicella Classico 2008. So a lot of times they don't release these wines for 5 years after bottling, because they want them to mature and age so you get a really big, smooth wine. The alcohol percent on this is 15%, and this rolls in at 82. Let's see if we can get a picture. This one's a little bit harder, darker label. Okay, there you go. Got that? Allegrini? Let's go back just a little bit. There we go. Allegrini, Amarone. Let's give it a whirl. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, 82 bucks. I had them corked because I opened them a little earlier and I wanted to stop the aeration process. Let's rinse out the glass. These are not a bad idea to decant. They're bigger wines. I've had these open for quite a while. I just stuck the cork back in. In fact, I'm going to pull the corks out right now. I actually couldn't resist when I first opened these up. I tasted through them real quickly to see what I was in for. They're delicious. Let's do a little scent searching. Right off the bat I get raisins. Raisins all day with a little cherry backdrop. A little tobacco coming through. I can smell the heat on this. I can smell the alcohol, but it's not like overpowering. You know, it doesn't blow the nasal cavity out. And like I said, these are 82 bucks. That's a fair amount of money to spend on a bottle of wine, but like I said, Christmas is coming. Sometimes we just like to spend a little bit more. I know I do. I open some of the big bad boys on Christmas that I've kept in my cellar for a little while, so maybe this is the time to pull out an Amarone for your prime rib dinner. Yeah, it's very earthy. I get a little fig component going on the backside. There's all that fruit, but there's that like underlying earthiness. Let's see what we got. These are big, powerful wines, baby. If you have not tried an Amarone, I think you would be doing yourself some good to just go out, spend a little bit of money. We've got some other values here. You don't have to necessarily spend 82 bucks. You can find some other ones out there. But this is very powerful on the palate. I mean, extremely powerful. You get a lot of that kind of date, raisin, fig component going on, but there is that, there's a little cherry fruit current going on there too. Very smooth, very rich, very balanced. It goes seamlessly across the palate. It has a little earthiness, like a little forest floor element on the backside. Certainly would not call this a rustic wine by any stretch of the imagination. Don't even go there, but there is that little bit of underlying forest floor component on the backside, which kind of balances out that big, luscious fruit. Makes me want to go out and buy a wine done with a ricciotto process just to see. I haven't had one. In all my career, I cannot remember having a ricciotto della Valpolicella. I know they don't make a lot of it these days, but I'm sure there's one out there. I've got to get my hands on one. Beautiful wine. I mean, I can see this going with prime rib all day. And this, my friends, will last me for my prime rib dinner tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to give this one an A. Hands down, good balance, delicious. Everything you would expect out of an Amarone. Pellegrino. Let's move on. Another big time producer is Masi out of Italy, of course. Duh. This one's a 2009. Masi, Costa Serra, Amarone Classico. There you go. 15% alcohol. Now when I lined these up, I went from the 15 to the 16. The last one is actually 16% alcohol. So let me see if you can see this label. Masi's a big time producer from Veneto. They make some awesome Amarones. I gotta quit wiggling around there. Hopefully you guys got to see that. So let's give it a tiny rinse. Certainly don't want to waste this juice. All right. So Veneto is up in northeastern Italy. Beautiful area. Vern was very impressed with what he saw there. So see, let's give it some scent searching. This rolls in at 57 bucks US. This one is definitely more earthy. I get some mushroom, forest floor elements. Not as much raisin on the nose, more on the currant side of things. I know currants are raisins, but you know, raisins are a little bit sweeter, a little, you know, you get the picture, right? Definitely there's some oak characteristics coming through on this one. They do put it in oak, by the way. Small barriques, as they say. Yeah, not quite as big and powerful on the nose as the Pellegrino, but definitely you get an underlying earthy mushroom fig component coming through with currants, but more on the black currant side, not the raisin side. Let's see what we got. So the same is true on the palate. It's definitely more restrained. It's not as big. The alcohol doesn't come through on this one nearly as much as the Allegheny, even though I think they're pretty much exactly the same. 15 and 15. Maybe Allegheny fudges a little. You can do that. You have, I think, about a 1% wiggle room, 1.5%. This is 2009, so it's actually a year younger. It comes through. I actually get a little grip action on the back end, probably from the oak. It could use a little bit more time in the bottle. It's very smooth. I mean, this is a smooth ass wine. You're not gonna, nobody's gonna complain about the feel of the mouth feel on this one. A little brighter. There's definitely a brighter fruit. Forest floor components are in there. There's a grip on the back end. This would go well with prime also. It's got good balance. Very well made Amarone. I wonder if they give the blend on this one. I'd read a little bit of the back label, but the lighting in here isn't good enough in the really small print. Anyway, main grape is Corvina, just remember that. Then a little bit of Rondinella and Molinara. Beautiful wine, actually, that's hanging around. I get a little leather component going on. Red currants, more on the red currant side. This is a little brighter. Certainly still very smooth, very delicious. Not as open as the Allegheny. But this has great potential. I mean, I can see this one another year opening up even more. I'm going to give this one an A also. Very well made. Maybe not as big and luscious as the Allegheny, but you see the potential there as the fruit integrates more with the wood and you get a fleshier style Amarone. And I do like the earthiness of this one and the balance of the alcohol. Let's move on to the next one. This is Tedeschi Amarone della Valpolicella 2008, so it's the same age as the Allegheny. This one has 16% alcohol, so I saved it for last. Perhaps a bigger wine, we'll see. I couldn't tell when I first tasted them because it was a while ago. They were just uncorked. I just wanted to see how to light them up. I wasn't sure even then, so I went with the alcohol content. So this is another great producer out of Verona, Italy, out of the Veneto region. Now this one, much different on the nose. That's what I love about wine. This one's like very kind of sultry and sexy with a little tiny bit of more fig component on it. Definitely a ton of figs, like somebody just jammed a bunch of figs with some black currants and a little bit of raisin, mashed them all together. Like the scents on this one. There's definitely a underlying, I get a little bit of like a green tea component. It's very interesting. A little meatier on the nose, get a beef action, a little like I don't know, stewed meat. Maybe more on the stewed prune side, maybe. And again, whenever you're searching for the scents, you have to have some sort of a relation to that smell. In other words, if you've never smelled stewed prunes, how would you know it smelled like stewed prunes? So sometimes it's good to just, it all has to do with association with smells. So, when different wine guys say different things about the wine, if they've never smelled stewed prunes, they're not going to know what that smell is either. Although they might reach out and take a guess, or maybe they've heard that description somewhere else. And so if you get your hands on this Tedeschi, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, rolls in at $53, which is the lowest price one of the bunch, has the most interesting nose. Let's see what we got in the glass. And I want to finish my other thought, actually. So if you see somebody like myself or Joe Roberts, One Wine Dude, or one of those critics, Parker, Suckling, Lauby from the Wine Spectator, and they give you a description of a wine, maybe buy that wine, look at the scripture, see if you can smell the same things they smell. Well, what do they mean, stewed prunes? Well, let's see. And maybe you can associate that smell that way. That's another way to learn how to identify those flavors. Let's see what we got. A lot of you are going to love this Amarone. Much more fruit forward up front. I didn't get the heat on the nose like I did the Allegrini. It has a little grip on the back end. There's an interesting, like a very ripe black currants. You get an interesting, like a green tea component, kind of green tea, black tea thing going on in there. It's kind of a prominent thing throughout the wine. Good balance, a little grippy on the back end. It not disjointed, but it's like you don't get that seamless furrow across the front. Big plush up front though. Yeah. Very interesting, big plush up front. You got that green tea, a little earthiness coming through. The only complaint I have about this wine is it gets a little awkward on the finish. In other words, it doesn't seamlessly flow to the finish. You get a really big, grippy kind of boom, bam, it just all of a sudden hits you. Even in your mouth, it doesn't just like kind of blend in together. It's just like grip, grip, grip thing going on. You know, but it's delicious. It's smooth up front, plush. Would definitely go with food. With food, you may lose a little bit of that awkward grippiness on the backside. Not bad, but I'm gonna have to go B+ on this one. I think because of that little awkward kind of herky-jerky thing on the backside. You know, it takes away from the wine just a little bit, but it's still very delicious, still very smooth up front, big plush, good fruit characteristics. Maybe the oak comes through a little bit too much. B+. Excellent wines. If you have a little extra cash and you want to kind of liven up your holiday meal, go for an Amarone. We got some good ones here. Cheers. And here's to keeping the snob out of wine. Thanks for joining me. Have a great Christmas. We'll see you on Thursday, the day after. Bye now.